Okay, hello everyone. It is 3 o'clock in the afternoon in Johannesburg, 9 a.m. in Washington, D.C., 1 p.m. in Accra, 2 p.m. in Lagos, and 4 p.m. in Nairobi. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Ntombizozuko, Dyani-Mhango, also known as Zozo, a professor and head of Department of Public Law at the University of Pretoria in South Africa. Welcome to the last installment of the Power to Pivot series, titled From the Bar to Diplomacy, an initiative of the Institute for African Women in Law under the banner IAWL Leadership Academy, intended to give practical guidance to those women who have been thinking of making career move from legal practice to explore a different path. Our panel today will discuss how one makes a move from the bar to diplomacy. I'd like to assure you that this is not the bar where one gets champagne. We are talking about the bar where one practices law. Now, change. Change in general is difficult. Branching out to a totally new career may even be more difficult. But what makes one change careers? It could be because one is just simply tired of doing the same job over a number of years, where every task becomes tedious and uninteresting. On the other hand, it could be because of the shifting world trends and sudden events that push them into different career paths. How does one accept this change and amass enough strength to transition? Moving from being an independent barrister or law practitioner to be a diplomat may even be more difficult. However, when one looks closely to these two distinct careers, one may see that there are similarities. In order to be a barrister or a law practitioner, one is required to be independent, to be an independent thinker, to be confident, a good communicator, one who doesn't easily get upset, and a good listener, and to be guided by the rules of ethics of the bar. These qualities expected of a barrister are similarly applicable to diplomats. Diplomats are required to communicate effectively, to possess strong analytical, organizational, and leadership skills. They must have a good judgment and high integrity, and they must be able to communicate effectively, both in writing and orally. One would think that I am talking about a barrister, as these qualities are also what makes one an excellent barrister. Are there any differences? How does one become a diplomat? Does the fact that one was a barrister before help make the move to become a diplomat easier? How does one move from the bar to diplomacy? This session will cover how to embrace change in an ever-changing world and move out of your comfort zone when burned out by your current career and venture into new career paths that are more fulfilling and exciting. It will focus on the required mindset and transferable skills needed for the change. This session will deal with transiting from private practice to representing states. How do you plan for the move? And what skills will be beneficial in your work as a diplomat? Panelists will explore issues of networking, negotiation, mentorship, learning, and development. My role today is to moderate this important and exciting panel. I am joined by these phenomenal women who have made the move from the bar to diplomacy. We have with us here today, Liga Mutia, a Chief Protocol Officer at the African Development Bank, Ambassador Jean Kamau, Kenya's ambassador to Ethiopia, and Ambassador Anna Bossman, Ghana's ambassador to France. Welcome, and thank you for joining us. We are very honored that you are able to take time off your busy schedule to provide guidance to these women who just need a little push before they make the move from bar to diplomacy. We are going to move over to you, Ambassador Bossman. So my question to you is, prior to your career in diplomacy, you worked with the Ghanaian Ombudsman for some 8 years, and then with the African Development Bank Group for about 6 years. Can you share with the audience why and when in your career you decided to pivot?
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this panel. You've said quite a lot about, the complementarities between lawyers and diplomats. And for my part, I didn't really make a conscious decision. But on hindsight, it seems to me that most probably this was a logical combination to all the work that I'd been doing before. So circumstances brought me to this point, and the fact that our president believed that I had the requisite qualifications, to be offered this position. I think I'm very grateful for that. Yes, you've spoken about, that you've given a little bit of an insight as to what I was doing before. Just before I came here, I was working with the African Development Bank, so I know Liga very well. We worked together at the African Development Bank. First of all, what you need to know, probably you do already, that as ambassadors, you have political appointees and you have the career ambassadors, the career diplomats. So the career diplomats are more or less quite well versed in the ways and means of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to which they belong. Political appointees, we are appointed directly by the president, and we learn, of course, there are courses and there are courses that we can follow and so on and so forth. But we have taken or we are chosen mostly because of what we can bring to the policies, to the president's vision, and so on and so forth. Now, I think that, as I said, the previous experiences that I've had over the years really have helped me. In the public service, I was in the public service. I was also in private service, in the private sector, working in oil and gas. I was also working as a consultant and as an activist. And as you yourself also said, I was working as an ombudsman, or rather commissioner, human rights. So I think that for me personally, and of course, I'm a lawyer. I'm a lawyer as well. And I did work, of course, I've also worked as an advocate and as a solicitor. So with all these different, I would say all of these different things that I've done before really helped me so that when the president just said, then I would like you to come to France and to be the ambassador in France, especially also because of the knowledge that I have of the French culture and having lived here before, and also the fact that I have moved quite a bit in different Francophone countries. And I really believe that also being a lawyer worked in my favor. So I think that I have to say one thing, I have to thank my father of blessed memory, because I didn't want to do law. To begin with, I really didn't want to do law. I wanted to do linguistics. I wanted to study Russian. I wanted to do languages, but he convinced me, he cajoled me into doing law, and I thank him for it, because really, when you have a legal background, it helps you in a lot of different things that you can do, different work and so on and so forth. Very good because of the training that you get. But just let me say one thing. The fact that you do law does not mean that you'll be a good ambassador. Because the ambassadors have all sorts of different backgrounds. And it is as a result of the background that they have and the vision or the objectives that the government or the president of a country may have, that's why they put you there. So for me, this is what I'll say for now. I'm very glad to have pivoted from law to being an ambassador, to diplomacy.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Bossman. So you were a reluctant lawyer who loved to do languages, but now I think you're mixing the two. Language, you have your law degree, but also languages because of your knowledge of the French culture. So
exactly.
it's
good combination.
Two
yes.
birds. Yes, it's a good one. Thank you so much. So legal background helps you. We hear that, but it does not mean that it is the only thing that can help you to move up to diplomacy. So let me start with you, Ambassador Kamau. You headed Action Aid International and led a large workshop. You have also worked actively in government service before branching out into diplomacy. Can you tell us the when and why of this decision to be a diplomat? Over to you, Ambassador Kamau.
Great, thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting me on this panel. I think it's very, very interesting and very opportunist for me to participate. Like the previous speaker, I had not really ever planned to go into diplomacy. It wasn't on my career path. It was offered to me, again, through my political activism. I'm a lawyer by training, and I've navigated my career in civil society, public service, back to civil society, private consulting. So I enjoyed a very vibrant career, which I dictated on my terms. I decided when to enter different workspaces based on my interest. And a lot of that was also driven by my own country's political transition. We find in our country as lawyers, there was a high demand for legal expertise in different parts of the society. So some people went into the public sector, but in the private sector and civil society, there was so many opportunities for lawyers. And that helped us shape our activism. It helped us propel into political activism with a strong legal background. So I started off, so I have a bachelor's and a master's degree in law, but my third degree, a master's in political science, was actually informed by what I was experiencing as a lawyer directly involved in political activism. And I just felt, I need to make sense of all this political transition theories and practice. How can I now add on practical skills? So by the time the offer came, this was 10 years ago, by the way, actually this year, to join the diplomatic service, I had created a name for myself and a brand of what I wanted to be associated with. Somebody who was knowledgeable on political transitions, good on legal reform. I set up the first office of the public complaints, the office of the Ombudsman. I was very key on security sector reforms between 2003 to 2006. As a researcher and a policy drafter, did a lot of training.
Again, the emphasis is that law is very important. It might not be the only tool that you use to move to the diplomacy, but it's a good basis to be able to do it. What I found interesting is that you had your political activism, even though you were not really thinking about being a diplomat, but you made the name for yourself that you were then asked to be a diplomat at the end of the day. And it's been 10 years already, which means that you're doing a really great job in this new found career. It's not even new when it comes to you if it's 10 years. Now, Liga, let me come to you. So prior to joining the African Development Bank, you were a practicing attorney in various private and public sector institutions and firms in the United States. At the African Development Bank, your career started as senior legal counsel at the administrative tribunal of the bank. So why did you branch into the immunities and privileges division of the bank?
Thank you very much. I want to thank IAWL for inviting me to be on this panel. And before I answer the question, I just wanted to say hello to my friend Anna. Nice to see you again, Ambassador Bossman, and to Ambassador Kamau. Really an honor to be on this panel with you guys. I wanted to also say hello to my family and friends who are joining, who are listening as attendees, my colleagues and my children. So welcome and thank you for being here. Now, for me, as you stated, I really did not start out to be in diplomacy. You know, I am more of a non-traditional diplomatic person, in the sense that I don't really represent a state as Ambassador Bossman and Ambassador Kamau do. So I don't represent a state, but I do work in diplomacy in the position that I'm in right now. So I'll get to that in a minute. But yes, I did start as senior legal counsel after having practiced law in the United States. And just like Anna said, as Ambassador Bossman said, I really did not intend to be a lawyer. I was a language person. I got my first degree in languages. Then I had my master's in communications. I was basically just fighting my father's wish for me to be a lawyer. And I did not want to be a lawyer. And it was only after I got my master's in communications that I thought about it some more. And I went and I decided to go to law school. So I went to law school, graduated, and actually my father came to me in a dream with a smile, and I knew that I finally did what he wanted me to do. So I have a similar story to Ambassador Bossman. In any case, so I joined the African Development Bank as a senior legal counsel in the administrative tribunal, doing all the normal legal things, law. You know, I was more or less like a clerk of the tribunal of judges. If you know what a clerk of a court is, most of the lawyers on this who are listening and know what I'm talking about. So I was more or less a clerk of the tribunal. And so my pivot to diplomacy, quote unquote, was really a move for upward mobility within the institution. So I saw a position open in the General Secretariat. I applied for it. I got promoted. And that's where my diplomacy or diplomatic experience started. And of course, I did not have any diplomacy background, but it was very easy to pivot. As my other august panelists have said, it was easy to pivot because of my legal background, because of my practice in law, because of my law studies. So it made it a very kind of seamless pivot. Of course, there were challenges, which we'll probably talk about later. But that is what really made it easy for me, was because I was a lawyer. And it helped me, my legal background helped me a lot in being able to, you know, carry out my mandate, do my job well, and really understand all the issues that are involved, especially with an international organization that has 81 member countries. So you have 81 different legislations that may apply to the institution, and 81 different perspectives of member states looking at what, you know, they can give the institution and what they can give staff. Certainly, it was a challenge because it was difficult to be able to bring people to understand that we are dealing with more of a bilateral, or not bilateral, like a charter. The African Development Bank has a charter, and every country that decides to join the bank signs on to that charter and accedes to that charter. So that charter and all the other agreements that flow from that is what is our basis for our work, for the diplomatic work that I do. So what do I do exactly? It's not the same as what ambassadors would do, but I am more responsible for making sure that the host countries that where we have offices are properly implementing all the clauses relating to diplomatic privileges and immunities of the institution itself and of its staff within their countries, within those boundaries, making sure that there are no violations, and also making sure on the part of the bank that staff members as well are obeying the law, which is what diplomats are supposed to do, obey the law of the host country. So my job involves that, and also other relations with host countries and other things related thereto. So that is how I did my pivot. Why did I pivot? It was upward mobility, but I'm glad that I did, because I feel that this is where I was supposed to be. This is what I was supposed to be doing. And my law practice, my legal education only prepared me to be in the position that I'm in today and to be doing what I'm doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And again, the emphasis is that the law degree, being a lawyer, helps one to be able to move to diplomacy. It's so interesting that your background, Liga, is the same as Ambassador Bossman, wanting to be language experts, but your fathers wanted you to be lawyers. But I guess being a diplomat, you also have to dabble in some language, being an expert in a language or two other than your own language. So those two really worked. But it's also interesting now to get the insight of what you really do, which is a little bit different from what the ambassadors are doing. In a way, you are helping the ambassadors to be able to follow the laws, etc. So thank you very much for that. Now, just to the audience, please feel free to write your questions to the panelists in the chat box. We will have about 10 minutes to answer those questions. And also later on, we will have a poll. So we will ask you to please complete the poll as well. I'm gonna move on to you, Ambassador Bossman. What are the challenges you have faced in your work as a diplomat, and how did you overcome them?
So what are the challenges that I have faced in my work as a diplomat, and how did I overcome them? Okay, so most ambassadors, I think, would have similar challenges that I have. And mainly, the challenges that we have are budgetary in nature. Budgetary challenges which can take your mind off the ball, which can take your mind off what you're really supposed to be doing there, which is representing your country. And so that's a big challenge. And also related with that, a little bit related with that, there's a big challenge with dealing with a bureaucracy not only from your own country, but also your host country. You know, those are really practical challenges that you have because you're a diplomat, and you must also act with tact and understanding. But those challenges can also affect the smooth running of a mission. But more important than this, the situation that can be very challenging is when the policies and the interests of host countries, your host country and your own capital, you know, clash or are divergent, you know, because really you are the one who will be relied on to explain, to clarify, and sometimes, you know, you are the one who has to deliver some inconvenient truths, you know, disagreeable. It might be very disagreeable because perhaps your country doesn't want to hear that. They have, you know, or vice versa, the host country does not want to hear some of the truths that your country is facing, you know. But the wishes and the policies of your country, that is your national country, they are primordial. Those are the interests that you carry. That is why you're there, you know. That is why you're there. Your job is to represent your country's interests. All in all, that doesn't mean to say, you know, it doesn't mean to say that when there's some other information or there's some other views, however negative they may be, that you give to you need to let your capital, you need to let your country, you need to let your minister be aware of some of these issues, and the country, your minister, the government will make a decision thereon. So what countries and where you as an ambassador also need to be very tactful is because, you know, dialogues between countries must be maintained, you know, so you cannot be somebody who talks too much. You cannot be somebody who is not patient. You cannot be somebody who is not tactful. And you cannot be somebody who does not tell the truth. You know, there are ways of delivering messages from one country to the other, from your country to the host country. So credibility is very important. And this is where credibility and integrity is very, very important, especially when you have those challenges, you know. And there, the standing of an ambassador is very crucial, because if you have the weight of your government or your president behind you, then you can do quite a lot, you know, especially if you're somebody who is trusted and by not only, because once you come to represent your country, especially if you are this very, very, you know, grand title, extraordinary and plenipotentiary, you know, very grand title, you know, but all it means is that because you are representing the interest of your government, the interest of your president, there's a certain way that you must behave. There's a certain way that you must hold yourself. And I'll just end with saying that the late Madeleine Albright, she said that when you're an ambassador or a diplomat, please be sure that you dress well, because you're representing your country, your country's interests. So people around you must see that your country is one that they can admire. So this is what she said. I think that that's some of the challenges. There's other challenges, but when you have a good team in an embassy, in a mission, working with you, a lot of the challenges that you have are really mitigated. You have a staff, if you have a team that you can rely on, if you have a team, especially when you are a political appointee, and you have a team that comes from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs who can guide you and who can help you maneuver your way through some of these sometimes difficult situations, then I think it's very helpful for you. So these are just some of the few challenges that I'll speak about now.
Great. Thank you very much, Ambassador. This was really, really interesting. Besides those challenges of budget, bureaucracy, but what I'm taking here is about the person who is representing the country. You must be trustworthy, you must have integrity, you must be tactful, you must be diplomatic, because you can't just burst out and say things without being tactful about them. Truthful, you must have credibility, and you must be trusted by your own government as well as the host government. I think this is really important for us to take in. So Ambassador Kamau is unable to join us because of the network, but she has sent me some answers to the questions that I have asked her. So I asked, what practical skills would a lawyer need in order to excel as a diplomat? So she says, skills from the legal profession that make us stand out in the diplomatic field are extensive. However, to keep the list concise, here are some that through her professional and academic career have proved crucial in diplomatic service. That is legal knowledge and training in constitutional law, international law. Oh, those are my kind of skills, knowing constitutional law and international law. So there's a path for me already. As well as having a master's degree in political science. It says these have been extremely valuable in her career as a diplomat. Practical experience in multilateral and bilateral engagements through her work in civil society was also invaluable. Practical skills in leadership and management in different organizations have been relevant for managing diplomatic missions that bring together functions and stakeholders. And for example, each diplomatic mission has representatives from trade, defense, consular, education, and agriculture departments. Thus, in a bid to succeed as a woman diplomat, it is essential to demonstrate leadership and management skills that promote teamwork and inclusive management. Again, that the teamwork comes out because also Ambassador Bossman has told us that you really need to have a great team and also an inclusive management. Great interpersonal people skills. She says, as diplomats, we are change managers, promoting the foreign policies that aim to advance our country's political and economic interests. We need to be well organized as well as be persuasive to champion great ideas that will transform our world order. This requires communication skills that are above par. So like I said earlier, that in order to be a diplomat, just like a lawyer, you need to have really great communication skills. So thank you, Ambassador Kamau, for that. Now, back to you, Liga. What are some of the key achievements or highlights in your career?
Thank you very much. Well, few. These are all related to the African Development Bank, because that's where, within this context of diplomacy, that is where I can point to with respect to diplomacy. So I had written three of them here. One of the key highlights, or some of the key highlights, include negotiating host country agreements, especially the privileges and immunities clauses in host country agreements for countries in the East Africa, in Central Africa, and in West Africa. I'm not going to name the countries, but being a part of that negotiating team and negotiating on behalf of my institution to ensure that the institution and the staff get the best possible privileges, diplomatic privileges and immunities that are accorded to them, including exemptions, because these are really critical to the work of the institution in terms of being able to have tax-free purchases, being able to transfer goods from one country to another without having to pay customs duties and all of those types of things. So yeah, so that's one of my my major achievement. Another one is being able to negotiate critical aspects of the return of the bank to its institution, to its headquarters. As you know, or you may or may not know, the bank was moved away from Abidjan in Côte d'Ivoire, this is where I am right now, for about 12 years when there was a crisis here. And so at some point, the bank had to return to its headquarters in Abidjan. And before that, we had to renegotiate certain things with the government of Côte d'Ivoire. And being a part of that negotiating team and ensuring that the bank was going to return in the best possible, within the best possible environment was really a big thing for me and one of my major achievements. And then last but not least, and that goes to your question, your issue of your point of leadership, which both you, I think Ambassador Bossman mentioned, and Ambassador Kamau, leading a very diverse, multicultural and multilingual team that handles all these issues of privilege and immunities for the bank and for its staff, not only at headquarters here, but in regional member countries and in our regional offices. That has really enhanced my own personal leadership skills and has given me a broader view of what it means to be, as you said earlier, a woman leader. It is not, diplomacy is more or less a man's, it's like a good old boys club. Most of the people involved in diplomacy are men. So I'm sure Ambassador Bossman and Ambassador Kamau would agree that being a woman in the diplomatic sphere is not the norm, and it provides even more, presents more challenges to you as a woman. And then I saw somebody say something about being an African woman. That's like a double challenge. Being an African woman in the diplomatic realm, I know I'm going a little bit outside of the question, but I thought I should just throw that in there. And so please bear with me. Being a diplomatic woman, an African woman in the diplomatic sphere, where we have our own African cultural values, our cultural traditions, the way we behave when our men are around. So those types of things present also different challenges that I'm sure Ambassador Bossman will be, and Ambassador Kamau, who are actually right there at the forefront of dealing with these, with host countries, may be able to speak about. But so yeah, key achievements, negotiating host country agreements, negotiating the parts of the return to the bank, to its headquarters, and also leading a very diverse team of staff at the African Development Bank that are engaged in the privileged immunities monitoring and management. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. That was also very insightful. I like the issue that you've raised. It's very important, being a woman in a diplomatic sphere, being an African woman in a diplomatic sphere, in an African country as well. So it's one of the things that I'm sure some of the panel members will also deal with it. I saw the question there, but it's interesting that you are raising the fact that we have African cultural values that as a woman, you may think that, oh, I'm a woman, I'm not supposed to push back when it comes to the male African diplomat, etc. So that's really a good insight there, but we'll unpack it some more when it comes to question time. So I have now the final question to all of you. So what lessons can you share with aspiring diplomats? I will start with Ambassador Bossman. Now that Ambassador Kamau can answer it, I will read her answer later. So what lessons can you share with aspiring diplomats?
Yes, before I say that, I just want to say to reflect a little bit on what Liga said about, being a woman and a woman diplomat. Yes, she's actually quite right. I just wanted to say, I remember when I first came here to France, and I went to a reception I'm not going to say which country was hosting that reception. But when I went, of course, ambassadors, you know, you come and you greet and so on and so forth. So I went towards the host and put my hand out, and he did this. And then I was wondering, I saw him shaking everybody else's hand, but he did this. What I learned, and of course, subsequently, I knew they do not touch women. You see, I was, my first reaction was, you know, a little bit, I felt a little bit humiliated or something, but no, that is their culture, you know, and it was not that they were trying to humiliate me or anything. This is the way they greet women, or they do not greet women, they will not touch you, you know. But of course, subsequently, we had the pandemic, so we didn't touch anybody else anyway. But anyhow, what lessons can we share with aspiring diplomats? Well, I think that first of all, there's certain universal traits that it doesn't matter what you are doing, what is your job, you should have those traits, or you should try to develop those traits. But speaking for just coming from law to diplomacy, bring all your past experiences with you, you know, make them work for you. You may have had bad experiences, you may have had some good experiences, but they are all experiences which you should bring along with you, because that will help you in different sectors and at times of the time that you are as an ambassador. So make it work for you. In my own experience, every job that I've taken, that I've had, that I've done in the past has taught me something to use here as an ambassador. You know, so take that with you. Your legal skills, your negotiation skills, the fact that you can write well, have an analytical mind, bring them all with you, you know. Remember that being an ambassador is not a right, it's a privilege. It's a privilege that has been given to you, you know. Be grateful, but be humble as well, because, you know, you are lucky to have had something like this, and it's a privilege. And remember, always remember that it's a privilege and not a right. You know, like I said, the legal background is decidedly an advantage to you, you know. And this job gives you access, you know, and it gives you a lot of advantages. So use them right, do the right thing, be thankful about that. Be humble. So those are the things that you bring as aspiring diplomats. Bring some humility to the work that you're going to be doing. Remember that you are there to do a service, not only a service to your country, but a service to humanity. So remember that as well. Bring that with you, you know. Be fair. Bring that with you. Be fair, be kind, also be firm also. And bring a lot of resilience. There's not, this job is not as easy as it may look, but you learn on the job, and you have your team and others, you have your peers. We have a network of women ambassadors, African women ambassadors, and we try to prop each other up. You know, not only do we try, we actually do. We also have fun together, and we learn each other's culture. And that's it's very important for you to have a network. Keep learning. We learn all the time from the other diplomats that are working with you, from your peers, from learn about the culture of your host country. Be ready to mix. You know, it's not always fun, but be ready to mix and to listen and to learn. Remember that you're going to go back home one day, and it would be really a pity to have missed knowing about the culture, knowing the country, knowing the people that you have been, you've stayed, you know, you've lived, where you've lived. So do that. And then just strive always to make a positive difference And that you can do by the way you do your work. Share your knowledge and also be a mentor. So this is what I can tell you at this time.
Wow, and that's a lot, and that is very helpful. Learn, never stop to learn. Liga.
Thank you. I've learned a lot as well from Ambassador Bossman today. So what lessons will I share with aspiring diplomats? Few that I wrote down: be genuine and true to yourself. You know, people see very quickly through disingenuity and pretense. So you have to be genuine, because that's what helps you build trust with the other party. Maintain the line of your leadership of your organization. Ambassador Bossman said that before. You're representing your country or you're representing your institution. You don't want to do or say or do anything that will bring disrepute to your country or to your organization. So you want to make sure that you speak in a manner, as Ambassador Bossman has said, that reflects the best of your country, and that would reflect your president, the person that you're representing. Be loyal to your country or your institution or your leadership, your boss, whoever that person is. I'm saying leadership and boss for people who may choose to go not the traditional diplomatic route, but the route of being in an international organization and doing the kind of work that I do. You want to make sure you're loyal to your hierarchy. You don't want to go disavow what your hierarchy's position is to external parties at any time. Be ready to make adjustments in your position, especially when you're negotiating. You may be negotiating something and you have a position that is the position of your institution, your government, your hierarchy, but you're in front of some people who may not be at the same place with you at that time. Be ready to make adjustments and be flexible, but at the same time, making a cost-benefit analysis in your head. What am I losing in this negotiation and how is it going, am I getting any benefit? You want to always have that at the back of your head when you're negotiating with either another government, at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or something, you know, another external party. And then particularly for people who are going to be working in an international organization or any institution where they're doing the kind of work that I do, make sure you master your texts. You should know what the Vienna Convention says on the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. You must know what it says. If there are any bilateral agreement between your country and the other country, you have to know what is in those agreements. If there are any host country agreements, like what I stated earlier, that I participated in these some negotiations, you need to master your text. Why? Because if you're dealing with a Ministry of Foreign Affairs, for example, and you have a bilateral agreement between your organization and the host country, the ministry may be trying to apply the Vienna Convention that may not necessarily apply, because there are more things that are accorded to you in your bilateral agreement than what is generalized in the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. So you have to master your agreements, master your text, because that also shows the other side that you know what you're talking about and that you're rightfully where you're supposed to be. So those are just some of the lessons that I would share with our aspiring lawyer diplomats. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was also very helpful. And you going back to what Ambassador Bossman has said, always remember who or what you are representing. You are not there on your own. So, and also it's, you must be loyal, and remember it is the right, it is not a right, but a privilege to represent your country. Ambassador Kamau, are you able to share your thoughts?
Yeah, it seems like the internet is stable now as we're drawing to a close. One of the lessons in diplomacy, there's never a dull day. You move from, I always tell people, I move from 0 to 99% in a second. A situation comes and you have to quickly adapt. And I think that's one of the lessons as diplomats, and advise, you know, be agile, be ready to move, problem solver. You have to think on your feet. You have to solve problems and provide direction and strategic. So, you know, you're a strategist at all points and times. As in my notes that I wrote, I thought one of the things, what a successful diplomat is someone who's got diverse skills. We're thrown into so many complicated situations, especially in multilateral stations, like where I am in Addis Ababa with the African Union, serving on the Peace and Security Council. You know, you wake up in the morning, oh my God, there's a coup. You know, again, what Liga said about texts, what do the conventions say? What do the protocols say? How do we ensure compliance? And you have, and you're navigating again in a patriarchal space. There are men who are trying to, intimidate you and reduce your worth and value in a discussion because you're a woman. So successful diplomats, you have to be critically aware of your environment at all times, well-read, well-prepared, and be ready to go the extra mile. That's so important. Don't get easily satisfied. Don't be too comfortable. Challenge yourself daily. How can I be better? How can I do better for the cause? And, you know, just the issue about humility is so important. And thank you, Ambassador Bossman, for bringing that. Because you've seen colleagues who get carried away on what it means to be a diplomat. And we forget it's about service to the people. It's service to our country. It's service to the greater good. And you will succeed if we take the vow. But thank you very much. And I'm really sorry. Today, Murphy's Law, when things can go wrong, they can go wrong. I've been looking forward to this panel. And then today, the internet was not my friend. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. At least you gave us your answers. So you've been participating, even if you were not saying it yourself. So thank you. Don't worry. This has been really great. You haven't spoiled it for us. Like you said, you must be ready for any situation when you are in diplomacy. So I'm just looking at the questions. Let me ask this one. Ambassador Bossman and Kamau, share what you like most about your job and what is your legacy as you have been serving in that office. So Ambassador Bossman, you can start.
What do I like about the job?
Yes, and what do you think will be your legacy?
Well, what I like most about the job is the meeting people. I like meeting people. I like mixing with people. I like learning from people. And so that is probably what I enjoy most. My legacy, I'd like to leave this place with the knowledge or at least with a sentiment that I made a positive difference to the work here, to the mission here, and to the relations, Ghana's relations with France. I think that's what I like my legacy to be. And also that through whatever it is that I've managed to do, that I have either inspired or helped, especially women and young girls, to also strive to do the best that they can or be the best that they can be in whatever work, discipline that they would like to do, but specifically for this particular panel, to aspire to that I hope that I've been able to help some of you lawyers out there, women lawyers out there, want really to become diplomats and therefore work towards that.
Hey, thank you. Ambassador Kamau?
What I like most about my job is that it's challenging. There's never, as I said before, there's never a dull moment, and there's no day which is the same. You wake up every morning to a different challenge, a different opportunity to make a difference. That's what I like about it. My legacy would be, I hope that people will remember that I challenged, especially within my teams, challenged officers to do things differently or to apply themselves differently to the situations we're in. Public service can also be rigid. It can be rigid, it's well-defined, rules and procedures, protocols, but we find a way and introduce new thinking on how we can achieve a task. And, you know, so I hope that will be my legacy, building stronger teams, daring to do things differently, supporting, you know, our diaspora, for example, in the different countries where they work, that we made a difference in their situation. So, you know, we also say that if you don't write your story, other people write it or repeat it in a different way. And maybe that's a challenge we have as women and African women ambassadors in this era and age, that we need to write our stories and see how we changed our world and our society where we were. So we'll see what we say about ourselves and what others say.
Just one question that I think is important and we haven't really touched upon, and I will ask to all of you. I will start with you, Liga. Have you managed to balance this with family life?
Thank you, Zozo. That's an excellent question because, as I stated earlier, as a woman, you also have other things you need to take care of, your family, and then you have your work. And so that work-life balance and trying to make sure you equilibrate it in a way that, you know, it will be satisfactory to both sides of your life, both your professional life and your personal life, it's very important. Part of being able to balance that, to balance work and life and to manage it properly, it's who you work for. If you have the right leadership, people who understand that you have a family, you may have a spouse or children or an aging parent that you need to take care of, but at the same time, you need to perform on your job. When you have leaders or superiors that understand, be it your head of state, your minister, your president of your institution, or your immediate boss, that helps you a lot. I have been lucky to work for an institution that takes that very seriously, work-life balance. And so I've been able to balance work and life. Certainly, when my kids were younger, it was difficult for me to leave them and travel out of my base on official missions. So you always have that pull in your heartstrings that you're leaving your children, even though you're trying to build a better life for them, but you're still feeling that guilt somewhat. But once I'm in town, I've always been able to balance that, you know, assign as much time as I need with my family and also be able to do my work. And for that, I think I'm appreciative of my institution and my leadership in that regard. So yes, I've been able to balance that. It may not be the same for everybody, but I have been able to balance that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ambassador Bossman and Ambassador Kamau, I'll each give you 10 seconds to respond to this question.
Well, it hasn't always been easy, but it's much easier now. Now that we have Zoom, now that we have social media, now that we have WhatsApp and all that, it's much easier to link up with your family. But yes, it's as Liga has said, it can be quite difficult, especially for the younger ambassadors, the younger diplomats. You know, we who have gray hair and so on and so forth, it's a little bit easier for us. But what she said also is very important with regards to who you work for, you know, or who is also rooting for you. That is also very important. And who is behind you. So if you have a family, if you have a husband, if you have a spouse, you know, who is very understanding and who is somebody who is going to be supporting you, as also with your family, you'll find it much, 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 much easier. You know, it can also depend on which country that you are sent to. because in some countries it is much, much more difficult, especially for women ambassadors, to be there without their family, without the support systems. And of course, with the work-life balance, you have to have a very good support system. And this is where the network, for me, for example, the network that we have, the women ambassadors, African women ambassadors here in France, here in Paris, this is a very, very good network, because even when, and a lot of us are here by ourselves, and we have spouses coming and going or not, but just having that network is very, 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 very helpful. Also, in an embassy, in an embassy on the mission, it's also very important to have very good relations with your team, because your team is actually are the ones who are there all the time. So you have a good team and you have very good relations with your team. It's also very helpful with your work-life balance. And it's really important for you to have that, because as Ambassador Kamau said, they're very, very challenging times, especially now that the world order is the way it is. As she said, things change from one moment to the other. You'll be sitting down thinking that you're doing some perhaps routine work, and you get a message from the capital. You have to go somewhere and you have to respond to certain questions that may be very, very difficult and sometimes very awkward, especially when you don't have enough information. So a good network, good support system, good friends, very helpful. And of course, good family support. That is extremely, extremely important.
Thank you, Ambassador. And Ambassador Kamau, 1 second.
And the most important thing, you must take care of yourself. Find time for yourself, exercise, look after your health. You cannot be a change management if you yourself, your own life is in disarray. That's really important. Find time for yourself, read, and just take care of yourself. I think that's really important to add on to what. Yes, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Just to our audience, since we were unable to answer all your questions, you can please send them to info@africanwomeninlaw.com. We will be grateful to receive those questions. We're sorry that we are unable to answer all the questions because we're pressed for time. So thank you very much to our esteemed panelists for this informative discussion. I've learned a lot. I'm sure that many women lawyers who wanted to make the move to diplomacy have also learned a lot. In fact, I wouldn't mind moving from academia to diplomacy after all the I've heard today. So it was really insightful. And I've seen messages from the audience that they really, really enjoyed this discussion. So we're very grateful. Thank you to our host, the Institute for African Women in Law, under the excellent leadership of Professor Dawini. And thank you to our audience. Of course, this is impossible without you. Thank you very much, and have a great day further. Goodbye.